Hello, fourth grade. Welcome to your quiz review on Chapter 10, Lessons 1 through 5. I'm on textbook 202 and 203. I'm going to be doing some of the odd problems with you, and you will be completing the even problems on your own. So first you need to gather all your supplies that you need to complete this work. You need your factor sheet, which I have right here. You need your fraction strips, which I have mine right here in this bag. And you need something to count with. I have a bag of beans. If you don't have anything to count with, then you can just make marks on your paper. So we're going to start with the first section that says find the fraction of each set. And I'm going to start with number 1. Number 1 says 1/6 of 24. So remember that when I find fraction of a set, so I'm doing number 1 on page 202. When I find fraction of a set, 1/6 of 24. The whole number tells me how many counters I need. I need 24. So I have 24 beans counted out, and then I need to have 6 circles. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to take my 24 counters that I already counted out, and I'm going to put them into the 6 circles. So to find out how many to put in each circle, I could put them in one at a time, or I know that 24 divided by 6 is 4. So I'm going to put 4 beans in each circle. Now if you don't have beans or any kind of counter to use, you can just put little marks or X's in the circles, because you know that 24 divided by 6 equals 4. So I will put 4 beans or 4 marks in each circle. And then I am finding 1/6 of 24. My numerator is 1. So I only need to know how many beans are in one circle. So that would be right here. I have 4 beans. So 1/6 of 24 equals 4. Now I'm going to go on to number 5. Number 5 says 4/5 of 35. I'm going to keep those 24 beans, and then I counted out 11 more right over here. So now I have 35 beans, because I need 35 in all, and I need 5 circles, because I am finding 4/5 of 35. And my denominator is 5. So that tells me how many circles I need. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 circles. And I have 35 beans. 35 divided by 5 is 7. So I'll put 7 beans in each circle. I just divide my whole number divided by the denominator to tell me how many beans I will put in each circle. So I'm putting 7 in each circle. Okay, so now I have my 7 beans in each circle. So I need to now look at my numerator. I need 4/5 of 35. That means I need 4 out of the 5 circles. So that would be right here, 4/5. So I have 7 in each circle, and 7 times 4 is 28. So 4/5 of 35 equals 28. Remember, what you need to do is you take your whole number divided by your denominator, that tells you how many circles, and then you multiply however many beans you have in each circle times your numerator. So 35 divided by 5 equals 7. And then 7 times 4 equals 28. Okay, now I'm going to go on to the next section. Number 9 says, which fractions are equivalent to 2/3? Select the 3 answer choices. So I know that I need to have 3 answers. So I'm going to pull out 2/3. Right here I have 2/3, and you can use your fraction strips for this. And it asks me to find the 3 correct answer choices. Well, the first one says 4/6. Well, I have that on my fractions, and you have that on your fraction strips. So let's see. Does 2/3 equal 4/6? Yes, it does. So I know that 2/3 equals 4/6. And I can check on the fraction strips also. I can pull out 2/3. So I need to find my thirds and my sixths on my fraction strips. So here are my sixths. And here are my thirds. So I would compare. I'd fold this over to show 2/3 right there, and then 4/6. 1, 2, 3, 4. I would fold that down, and I can see that 2/3 is equivalent to 4/6. So you can use your fraction strips at home. All right, so the second one says 6/9. So I'm going to get my ninths out. So I still have my 2/3 here, but I need to find my ninths on my fraction strips right here. And I'm going to fold back 6/9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6/9. And I'm going to line them up. And I can see that yes, 2/3 does equal 6/9. 2/3 equals 6/9. Okay, and C says 8/10. I'm going to grab 8/10 over here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8/10. 8/10 does not equal 2/3. 8/10 is more than 2/3. So those are not equivalent fractions. All right. And D says 9/12. So I'm going to get my 12ths out to see if 9/12 would equal 2/3. So there's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So no, 9/12 does not equal 2/3 either. It's more than 2/3. And then my next one says 10/15. Well, I don't have 15ths on my fraction strips or on these fraction pieces. So I'm going to have to do it this way. I'm going to have to write down 10/15. And I want to see if it equals 2/3. So I'm going to think. 15 divided by what equals 3? Well, 15 divided by 5 equals 3. So I know that I also have to divide my numerator by the same number to get an equivalent fraction. 10 divided by 5 equals 2. So yes, 2/3 is equivalent to 10/15. All right, number 11 is the same kind of problem. It asks you to find fractions equivalent to 3/8. Now I don't have 16ths or 24ths on my fraction strips. So I'm going to have to do that by multiplying or dividing on number 11. So I have 3/8. And my choices are 7/16, 8/16, 9/24, and 10/24. So I have two different denominators. I have 16 and I have 24. So let's take 3/8 and see how many 16ths it equals. Well, 8 times 2 is 16. So 3 times 2 equals 6. So 6/16. So neither of these are equivalent. So it's not 7/16 or 8/16. So now let's check the 24ths. 3/8 equals how many 24ths? 8 times 3 equals 24. So 3 times 3 equals 9. So it's equivalent to 9/24. All right, the next part on the next page, now I'm on 203, it asks you to write equivalent fractions. To do this, you can multiply numerator and denominator by the same number, you can divide numerator and denominator by the same number, or you can use your fraction strips, or you can do a little bit of both. So number 13 says 2/5. Well, I'm going to get out 2/5 here on my fraction strips. Here I have 2/5, and I'm going to try my 12ths. Let's see if I have any 12ths that will equal 2/5. Okay, that looks close, but if you could look carefully, you can see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/12 is just a little bit bigger than 2/5. So those are not equivalent fractions. They're close, but not quite. But now if I try my tenths, let's try tenths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4/10. That is equivalent. 1/5 is equivalent to 4/10. And I can check that. 2/5 is equivalent to 4/10. And I can check that by multiplying. 5 times 2 equals 10. So 2 times 2 equals 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4/10, 2/5. Okay, another one is number, 17. Number 17 asks me to find an equivalent fraction to 1/3. 1/3. Okay, I can use my fraction strips. Here I have 1/3 showing. And I'll get my ninths. And I can compare, and I can see that 1/3 is the same as 3/9. So 1/3 equals 3/9. Because I know that 3 times 3 equals 9, and 1 times 3 equals 3. I can find an equivalent fraction just by multiplying. I could multiply numerator and denominator by 6. And I would get 6/18. That's another equivalent fraction to 1/3. So you can use your fraction strips, or you can multiply. Or you can divide, which we're going to do in our next section. The next section is putting fractions in lowest terms or simplest form. Remember, I need to find my greatest common factor, and that's when you're going to use your factor sheet. We have all your factors, and yes, you will be able to use your factor sheet on your quiz when you take your quiz on Friday. You will also be able to use your fraction strips. So number 31, number 31 says 12/14. So I'm going to look at my factor sheet at 12 and 14. And I can see that the greatest common factor is 2. The common factors are 1 and 2, but 2 is the greatest common factor. So I can divide numerator and denominator by 2. 12 divided by 2 equals 6. 14 divided by 2 equals 7. So 6/7. Okay, let's look at number 33. 4/12. So let's check 4 and 12. And I can see that my common factors are 1, 2, and 4. But I'm going to pick the greatest one, which is 4. So I'm going to divide my numerator and my denominator by 4. 4 divided by 4 equals 1. 12 divided by 4 equals 3. And let's do one more of those. Let's do number 37. 37 is 8/10. So I look on my factor sheet, get 8 and 10, and I see that my greatest common factor is 2. So I can divide numerator and denominator by 2. 8 divided by 2 equals 4. 10 divided by 2 equals 5. So 8/10 in simplest form is 4/5. Okay, now we're going to move on to the word problems. Let's look at number 39. I'm going to do all 3 word problems. So number 39, if I read it in the book, it says, Abby bakes a batch of 48 muffins for the school bake sale. If 3/4 of the muffins sell, how many muffins does she have left? Explain how you found your answer. Well, 3/4 of 48 sold. So I'm going to put 3/4 of 48. And I'm going to do a bar here. All right, this is the bar, stands for all the muffins. Okay, she has 48 muffins. Okay, 3/4 of them sold. That means I need to do 4 sections. So I'm going to take my bar and divide it into 4 sections. So 48 divided into 4 sections would mean 12 in each section. Okay, 3/4 of the muffins sold. So that would be 3 of the sections. Those sold. One section, 1/4, did not sell. That means they were left. They did not sell. And the question asks me, how many muffins does she have left? She has 12 muffins left. So you have to make sure you read the question carefully. It didn't ask you how many did she sell. It said how many did she have left. So it's 12. All right, number 40, we have Vincent and Travis. And they have 12 apples each. Vincent said that he will use 1/3 of his apples to make an apple tart. Travis separates his apples into 6 groups and says he will use 2/6 of his apples to make an apple pie. Which person uses more apples? Explain. Okay, for this, I'm going to use my fractions over here. So they each have 12 apples. That's their whole, 12. And Vincent uses 1/3 of his. So he separates his apples into thirds. So here are Vincent's. He separates them into thirds. Okay, so that's Vincent. Okay, and then we have Travis, who separates his into 6ths. Okay, so I'm going to put Travis's. So he would need 6/6. Okay, so there are Travis's. Okay, and then it says that Vincent is going to use 1/3. So here's what Vincent's going to use right there, 1/3. And Travis is going to use 2/6 of his. 2/6. And the question says, which person uses more apples? Explain. Well, they both use the same amount of apples because 1/3 is equivalent to 2/6. And we have one more question to do. Number 41. There are 48 students on a field trip to the Science Museum. They split into groups of 16 to go to different science shows. What fraction of all the children are in each group? Express your answer in lowest terms and explain how you found your answer. Well, we know that there are 48 students in all. 48. That's my denominator. That's the whole, how many there are in the whole group. And there are 16 in each group. 16 out of 48 is each group. So the fraction of children in each group would be 16/48, but that's not simplest form. And if I look on my fraction factor chart, I don't have 48 on here. So I'm going to look at this and think, well, those are both even numbers. So I'm going to start by dividing both of them by 2. I know that's not my greatest common factor, but I can get some smaller numbers to work with. 16 divided by 2 equals 8, and 48 divided by 2 equals 24. Now both of those numbers, 8 and 24, are on my factor sheet. So I look at 8 and 24, and I can see that the common factors are 1, 2, 4, and 8. 8 is the greatest common factor, so I can divide by 8. 8 divided by 8 is 1, and 24 divided by 8 is 3. So 1/3 of the students are in each group. I could have done this a couple of different ways. I could have taken 3 circles and put 16 in each. Or if I did it this way, would have known that 2 times 8 is 16. I could have just divided by 16 at the beginning. So there's always more than one way to solve a problem.